We're talking today with Mr. Robert Mueller of South Haven, Michigan. The interviewer is James Smither of Grand Valley State University. Now, Mr. Mueller, can you begin by telling us a little bit about yourself? To start with, where and when were you born?
I was born in Chicago, Illinois in 1921, March 8th.
All right. Now, what did your family do? What did your father do for a living?
This just isn't working.
That's okay.
Let me try this again.
All right.
Or else you'll have to talk loud, pretty loud.
All right.
Just a minute here. Now you won't have to talk loud at all. Just talk slow.
All right.
Okay.
Now, tell me about your family. What did your father do?
Yeah, okay. I hear much better.
Okay.
My father's name was Walter, and he was deaf. This isn't hereditary.
Mm-hmm.
He had an accident out on the East Coast. I can't remember. Anyway, he was deaf. My mother's name was Beatrice. My father worked as a hard-working man all his life at Wall Eversharp Company.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing real exciting about my dad.
Oh.
And he was the greatest pianist I have ever heard anybody play. Everybody says that. In fact, they were visiting us in Florida and went next door to a real nice restaurant. And while after they ate, they had a piano there, and he asked the manager would like to have him play. My dad played so good, all the people, they wanted to hire him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was just amazing. But anyway, there's nothing outstanding other than that.
Well, did he work all through the Depression? Did he have a job in the 30s
Yes,
all the time?
yeah.
Okay.
He was, of course, too old for one thing, and he worked at the Wall Eversharp Company.
But he didn't lose his job during the Depression or anything like that?
No, he was like a chemist that they make lead for pencils and stuff like that.
All right. Now, where did you go to high school?
Lane Tech High School.
I heard of that one. From Chicago, so I know that. Okay. Now, when did you graduate from high school?
Yeah, I graduated from Lane Tech High School.
And what year?
39.
39. Now, when you finished high school, what did you do next?
Well, I was a big shot at high school. I was captain of both the swimming teams, and I was won the championship of Chicago and Illinois.
Wow.
And that's how I got to college. I got a scholarship.
And where did you go to college?
Well, I think that would be, let's see, graduate almost right away, like 40.
Right. And what college did you go to?
I went to Gustavus Adolphus.
Up in Minnesota?
Yeah.
Okay.
I went there because I got my scholarship there.
All right. Now, what was it like up there? What was the school like?
It was first of all, it was so cold. I mean, when I say cold, it was so cold. The school, we went to chapel every day. It was quite a religious school. And other than that, they had a very good swimming team. But other than that, nothing special really.
Right. Now, what did you study while you were there?
That's a good question. I was not a good student. I wasn't serious about it. But in high school, I studied electricity, and it was more of a general. I really can't remember.
Okay, so you took a lot of different things.
Yes,
okay,
yes, I did, yeah.
That was pretty common in those days. Now, did you learn to fly while you were in college?
Yeah. Well, that comes a little bit later. I finished one semester at Gustavus Adolphus. Then I got an offer to go to Southern California to Fullerton Junior College to swim for them.
Right.
So when I went to Fullerton, they had a program practically free to get a private pilot's license through the school. Cost $15 for the whole thing, and so I got my earliest training there, and I did earn my private pilot's license there. In fact, I'll never forget, took my first cross country alone to Oceanside, and when I got around Oceanside, I couldn't find it. And I'm flying around, and finally I just see a field, and now this is like 70 years ago.
Right.
And I land the airplane in a field, and it was like a crowd of people. You know, airplanes were pretty new,
Right.
come around, and I said, where is the airport? And they pointed and you know where it was, and so I took off and went over there, and then I finally got back to Fullerton. But anyway, that was where I got my private pilot's license.
All right. Now, why did you go to Fullerton? Why did you go to Fullerton? Why did you leave Gustavus Adolphus?
Why did I go to Fullerton?
Yeah.
Because they gave me the scholarship.
Yeah. Well, Gustavus gave you a scholarship too, though. But
yeah, I had this. I didn't like it up there, and so I got another offer.
okay. So yeah, you went where it was warmer.
Well, it was warmer and beautiful, and everything about it was wonderful. Good-looking, beautiful girls.
All right.
And
then how long did you stay in Fullerton?
quite a while. It was like 2.5, 3 years. Quit school one semester to take a bellhop's job in Palm Springs, California. And being a pilot, in my spare time, I'd just go out to the airport there and look at the airplanes. And the owner had several hangars for the airplanes, and there was 600 acres of land with these buildings, and he wanted to sell me now listen to this, the Palm Springs Airport. And he wanted $3,500. I mean, for the Palm Springs. But this is before Vegas was.
Sure.
It was just nothing hardly, you know.
Yep.
But anyway, I forget your rest of your question.
Well, I was just asking you kind of what you did, how long you were in college and what you were doing. So you're telling me that. So you took a semester off, you were a bellhop, you were in Palm Springs. And then, well, at that time, I mean, were there rich people who'd come out there? Was Palm Springs a resort then?
Very rich people. In fact, one of them I got to be running around with, this girl, very pretty girl, and she winds up winning an Academy Award, Ann Baxter.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah. And believe it or not, I had a date with her for our prom, and which was about 25 miles away. And this guy that had the car couldn't make it. I had to call her up and cancel. But I loved California then. It was just beautiful.
All right. Now, is that where you were when the war started? I mean, when Pearl Harbor happened?
Yeah, I was on the beach in California, Huntington Beach, when I heard about it. Yeah.
Okay. Now, before Pearl Harbor, were you paying any attention to what was going on in the world? Did you know there was a war going on?
I was, but it was nothing like when Pearl Harbor, you know, and then it was all out for everybody. Yeah.
Right. Now, after Pearl Harbor happened, did you think about enlisting right away?
Oh, yeah.
And so what did you do then?
Well, I went down to wherever you go, enlistment headquarters, and they told me what I had to do. And like I say, the first thing was a 2-year college degree. And when I got that, I went right down, and then I had a little waiting period. I'm thinking maybe a couple of months before they called. And from there, they sent me like I told you, I went to that pre-flight school.
All right.
Then,
let's back up a little bit here to get it on the record here.
Okay.
You needed to have a 2-year college degree. Now, when you first went to enlist, you didn't have the degree completed yet, did you?
No, I didn't.
So what did you have to do to finish?
they told me I had to have a 2-year college degree.
Right.
So when I went back to the college and took this, filled out this form they wanted me to, which was really a lot of baloney, but just an excuse. They told me the military could use me better than they could, and so I passed. They passed me, and I got my 2-year college degree.
Right. But you basically, they let you, a professor allowed you to pass a course that you didn't pass when you first took it, though, right? There was one professor.
During the semester, no,
Yeah.
I wasn't that interested. No, I flunked it, and but like I say, I wound up getting past.
So you let you do something else that would give you credit for it, and then you could move on. So you filled out something or signed something, and
What's that?
what did the professor do for you then that enabled you to?
He didn't particularly like doing it, but he knew that his reasoning made sense. That I would be of more use as a pilot. And so he just, as an excuse, had me work out a paper of some kind. I can't remember. And he passed the paper, and then I got my degree.
Right. So you did extra credit work, passed the course, and could move on. That's how we professors do it. That's how that works. Okay. Now, what was the first place they sent you for training?
The very first place was Iowa City, Iowa.
And what did you do there?
That was like pre-flight. You're like boot camp, just like boot camp.
Well, did they make you march around and do exercises?
Terrible.
All right. Now, which branch of the service were you actually in?
I was a Navy cadet.
And now, eventually, you wind up in the Marine Corps. Is that right? Okay. Now, does that happen later?
Yeah. What happens is that as you go through the Navy cadet program and progress, and when you're going to graduate and get your wings and your commission, you have an opportunity to make application to be in the Marine Corps. Now, this is egotistical to say, but they were only, I understand, taking a top 10% or so. So I was a good pilot, and I applied for my commission in the Marine Corps, and they accepted me, and so I became a second lieutenant instead of an ensign.
All right. Now, tell me a little bit more about Iowa City. What was that experience like for you? Who were you training with when you were there?
Well, it was all physics. It was like going to school, and it was, of course, an awful lot of physical, getting yourself in shape, and mostly like going to school, and then a lot of it was things like recognition. When you first go in there, they'll show you an airplane, and you don't even see anything. But as they keep teaching you, pretty soon you can identify that thing that you never even saw before.
Right.
Things like that. It was like 3 months of going back to school.
All right.
Now, Navy, everything with Navy.
Right. Now, the other men that were training along with you, did they have a different background from yours? Had they done a different kind of training already?
No, they were all different backgrounds, come from different places, different things.
But did some of them have more military training than you did?
See, that was my disadvantage. Like I say, the guys that were accepted as Navy cadets went to a pre-flight school. I skipped that because I had my license.
Right.
So then I started from there at a big disadvantage because I didn't understand, for example, code. They all knew code, and I didn't even know the Navy lingo, But anyway, I struggled through it, and I made it.
All right.
I was a good pilot.
Now, how long were you in Iowa City? How long were you there?
About 3 months.
Okay. And then where did you go next?
Went to Norman, Oklahoma. And at Norma is your primary flying training.
Okay.
And we flew Stearman aircraft.
And those are biplanes?
Biplanes.
All right. Now, how did you like flying a Stearman? Did you like it better than what you learned on, or?
Oh yeah, I love the Stearman. Just in fact, I had one till a few years ago. I finally sold it, but Stearman, they're wonderful trainers. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. Now, while you were doing training in these places, did you get a chance to go off the base and do other things? Did you have, like in Oklahoma, could you go anywhere?
Oh yeah, we had considerably more time off.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe a day a week. I can't remember.
And what was there to do? Could you just go drink someplace, or?
Well, we'd go into Oklahoma City and wherever the action was, that's where we'd go.
All right. Now, so how long were you in Norman? How long was that first round?
We were in Norman about 3 months, and a lot of, you flew every day, and you had to pass the early part, then you take a check ride, and you pass, then you go to B part, and you take that. C is aerobatics, and go through that, and you take that. And a lot of guys flunked out. If you didn't make it, you were out. If you did, you were sent to either Corpus Christi, Texas, or Pensacola, Florida. I made it, and they gave me orders to Pensacola, Florida, and I thought, Florida, wonderful.
You didn't know where Pensacola was.
Pensacola is not so good.
Yeah. What was that place like?
That was, of course, the final stages of your training, and they trained you in bigger planes like the SNJ or AT-6, and it was advanced training, and they taught you all the radio work. And they had me flying OS2U Kingfisher. That's a seaplane, and there's quite a story to that because I had the most terrible crash. I shouldn't be here today. I was flying this Kingfisher in formation, and when you're flying in formation, the lead plane is here, and the two planes are just behind him, a little bit lower.
Right.
And we flew very close. And so we're coming in about 2 miles from the base, coming in to land on the water, and the leader, and I know this is true because they never even once blamed me for anything. What happened is the leader all of a sudden makes a right turn, and I'm on the right side, and we're right down by the water, and I had to make a right turn, and my wingtip caught the water, and I cartwheeled over, and I was knocked out temporarily, and then I came to, and I was upside down under the water in this airplane that's sinking, and I had a cut on my head, and anyway, I struggled to get the parachute off, and to get up, I had to go down and then up. It seemed like it was 5 minutes, but probably a minute or maybe a little more. And I made it up to the surface.
Now, did this plane have an open cockpit?
Sure.
Did the plane have an open cockpit? Or did you have a canopy on top of you? Or
yeah, it flipped over.
Yeah.
The wingtip caught the water as I made that turn, and it flipped right over, upside down.
Right.
And the doctor said that if I hadn't probably had as much experience swimming, in other words, I could orientate myself probably a lot better than a lot of people could, but it seemed like I was down under there forever. I was very lucky. In fact, when there's an accident, a big siren goes off on the base, and they send a boat out. The boat got there in about 10 minutes. And of course, I was swimming around the wreck, and I still remember the guy said, 1 or 2. He meant us to want to know if there was somebody else, you know. And I said, no, it was just me. And they got me in the boat and took me into the base. And when I got close, there must have been when I say 1,000, probably more than that. All these cadets and people
Mm-hmm.
they were glad to see that I was alive,
Mm-hmm.
because a good chance that I wouldn't have been.
Right.
But that was
That was pretty scary.
really bad.
All right.
And then the first thing they had me do, they took me down to the airplanes,
Mm-hmm.
had me get in another OS-2U Kingfisher
Mm-hmm.
and make 5 landings.
Wow.
And then they took me to the hospital. But they do that for a psychological reason, so that you don't dwell on the accident.
Yeah, as long as you didn't have a concussion or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, you could have been pretty badly hurt there.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's pretty remarkable. What else do you remember about being in Pensacola? What was the base like, or what were the guys you were
The
training
base
with?
was a very efficient base. In fact, we had our advanced training where we, learned to fly the different types of airplanes, and gunnery. We had gunnery practice, and shooting real bullets at targets, and that's the final deal. And if you pass, and then they had. This was scary. They had night flying, and you're in this airplane, and it's pitch dark, and you can't see anything, and you take off, and you land entirely by instrument. I mean, you don't try to look at anything. You look at your rate. Your rate of descent was 100 feet minutes. In other words, slow descent.
Right.
And then you could see if your altitude was 200 feet, 100 feet, 50 feet. You're getting kind of close to the water, but you still hold it that same. And all of a sudden, you land. Quite an experience.
Now, were there a lot of accidents in training?
I was told, now this is hard to believe, I was told there were more flyers killed in training than in combat. I was told that. A lot of them did die, yeah, but I can't verify that. But yes, there were a lot of accidents.
All right. Now, how many different kinds of aircraft did you fly, do you think?
Well, when I finally graduated, I was flying these SNJs. They're a really nice airplane, 600 horsepower. And then they sent me to St. Louis. No, they sent me to New Orleans, which was the best deal I ever had, because first of all, I already had my commission. I already had my wings. But this was a instructor school to teach you how to teach.
Right.
So I was there for about 3 months, which was probably the best 3 months I ever had. It was fun, and a great place and great food. And anyway, then when I graduated from that, they sent me to St. Louis to be a flight instructor. And at St. Louis, this is some kind of an experience. You go from a cadet to when you become an officer, and you get your commission and wings, and they send me to St. Louis to be a flight instructor. So they take you to the door, and this black guy with white gloves shakes your hand, takes your baggage, takes you up to your private room, your private bath, everything. It's like a fine hotel,
Well, was this on a base? Was this on a base? Was
Yeah,
this,
yeah.
Okay.
And it was so happened time to eat. So this colored guy, he took me down and showed me, where to sit. And in the meantime, he goes up and unpacks all my stuff and puts it everything in place. And they bring me a menu. I mean, it's a whole different world. And I was a junior flight instructor for about 3 months. Then they considered me to be a senior flight instructor.
Now, Do you know why they made you a flight instructor?
No, I don't. I guess they were running short at the
Mm-hmm.
time. And in fact, I'm sure that had to be it, but
Well,
they don't tell you those
yeah.
things. They just give you your orders and you go.
But you had done very well in flight training, right? I mean, you were a good pilot. You were in the upper part of the group. You could make it into the Marine Corps, which a lot of men didn't. So you probably were pretty good, and they may have wanted you for that.
Yeah, well, that I can't
Mm-hmm.
answer, but I will say that yeah, I became a senior
Mm-hmm.
flight instructor. Then, after about 3 months, I became a senior check pilot. All I did was give check rides, and
What's a check ride?
that means means everything to these
Mm-hmm.
cadets because they get washed out or they go on to the next stage.
Right.
And it's a lot of responsibility because a
Mm-hmm.
lot of these guys, they committed suicide even. It meant that
Oh,
much,
yeah.
to pass or not to
Mm-hmm.
pass. And so as I say, I was a senior check pilot. And I'll never forget this one experience. They sent a bunch of cadets from England over here, and we were we were teaching them, to fly, same as we were doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was giving the check rides, and it was winter time, and it was cold, and this cadet's in the back seat, and I can see him, he can't see me. And I was asking him, you wear a Gosport tube, and
Mm-hmm.
I guess I wasn't in a very good mood, and I said, "Are you supposed to be flying this airplane?" And I look up at the mirror at that kid. Here he is from England, and I see tears,
Mm-hmm.
and could have killed me. I mean, I felt so bad he really wasn't doing very good,
Mm-hmm.
but I had ways that I could incomplete the hop, which I
Mm-hmm.
did. You just take it down and say it's missing a little or
Yeah.
something. But somebody else got him next time, and I never did find out. But at least I gave him another chance.
Right.
And I was pretty much had the reputation of a Santa Claus. I was pretty good on passing most of the guys. But then and then from there I went to Corpus Christi, Texas. We were going to form our squadron there. I was going to go out and fight the war.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a lot of real tough training, again, with a
Mm-hmm.
lot of bombing and firing with real
Right. Yeah.
ammunition. And
What kind of aircraft were you training in?
I was flying then Grumman Wildcats.
Okay. Fighter
Grumman
planes. Yep.
Wildcats, yeah. And they the training was pretty severe. We would go up and have dog fights, with the instructor.
Right.
And the thing is, they film all this.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're flying and shooting at a target, these bullets are colored, and they can tell when they
Right.
get done. They
Right.
get that big flag out there, and they can see, how many times you hit the target. And again, egotistical me, but I did very well on gunnery because I could prove it.
Right.
They could see all the hits that I had,
Mm-hmm.
And then we formed our squadron, the guys that were in my squadron, and we had to go out and become aircraft carrier qualified,
Okay.
which means that you had to go out in the ocean and make 14 landings on aircraft carrier.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing I will never forget is that on a certain morning, they set us out to the aircraft carrier, which was 200 miles out in the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
And when I get to this aircraft carrier, I never saw anything look so small. I mean, it's that big ocean. I mean, you think, holy mackerel, you know. And it was one of the smaller aircraft carriers. But anyway, you're taught pretty well prior to that on the land.
Right.
You know, really the signal man gives you all the signals whether to cut or you know. And so I did good at that. I made my 14 carrier landings, and that was the end of it. And then we were going over to Japan or somewhere, I don't know. And I think it was on the way back. Anyway, the war ended, and that was the end of it. Except that this is unimportant to you, but we were on inactive duty for a while, and while you were on inactive duty, you had to get your 4 hours in a month to get your flight pay.
Right.
So I would go out there and got in this big SB2C Helldiver to get my time in.
Right.
And I took off in that thing, and I didn't even tell anybody, but I had heard that at Camden, South Carolina, the government was selling a lot of airplanes. So I took off in that big old bird and flew down to Camden, South Carolina, and there must have been 500 steermen lined up for sale. And some of them just like new. $382 a piece. And I bought one and wound up, when I was all done with everything, flying it home. But anyway, the questions that you've asked me, that's pretty much about all I can tell you. Unless I have something here that, I don't have any other exciting things.
Well, you've done a pretty good job of explaining how the system worked and how you went from one step to the next. And so we've got that in there pretty well. Now, what did you do when you finished the service, when you got out of the Marines? What did you do?
I bought that airplane from the government, and I found out there was a little airport in Michigan that could be leased, and so I went and saw the guy and made arrangements in Breedsville, Michigan. That's a real little airport, dirt runways and that.
Yeah. Where is Breedsville? Where is Breedsville?
Breedsville is 10 miles east of South Haven.
Okay.
And anyway, when I left, they had a cadet bonus for some reason, and I got $1,300. So I had a little money, and we went to Breedsville, and I thought that I would have to get a flight instructor's rating, which I didn't figure it'd be any problem. So I went ahead and made the whole deal and didn't even have a flight instructor's license. But so I had to go up to Grand Rapids to take my flight test. And when I went up there, this inspector from the FAA went with me, and I took off, and he asked me to do different things, which I did. And we came down and landed the airplane and shut it off and started to walk towards the office, and I'm thinking, is there a problem? You know? He said, Mr. Mueller, you would like to get your flight instructor's license, right? I said, well, that's what I'm here for. He said, how would you like to be an examiner? Now, an examiner is a step above a flight instructor, and you have to be a flight instructor for 2 years before you can qualify for that.
Right.
But he said that I did such a good job that I should be, with my history, that I should be an exam. So I got an examiner's license, which meant a lot to me because in Breedsville, I wasn't making any money hardly, but guys that come from 50, 100 miles away, they have to come see me to get their license, you know. So that's what I did until the big thing. I saw a guy come over, and I wasn't hardly making any money. I see this guy come over in a crop dusting airplane.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd never done that, but I saw I watched him a little bit, and I thought, hell, I can do that, I think. And so I bought a crop duster in Milwaukee for $700 and flew it back to Michigan. And I got no help from anybody. Nobody, like even little things like loading and setting, I knew nothing.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, through trial and error, I got to just we used dust those days.
Right.
Dumped the dust in, and slowly but surely, I started. Apparently liked it, and then they liked it more and more because I was getting better all the time.
Right.
And so that was very successful move to the point where I had to hire other guys. And pretty soon at Breedville, there were 4 of us crop dusting because there's a lot of blueberries in the area, and that was our main crop. And then went to South Haven. They wanted me to manage the airport, and I told them only if I could run my crop dusting business because that was a big, much better airport. And so I did, and so I stayed there for probably 30 to 40 years, and then I sold out to my manager. But we had, I think, the largest aerial application business in the country. I had as many as 30 airplanes working, and took some terrible chances on bidding some jobs at, like this one in Greece. I bid $8 million on it.
Wow.
And the guy that got it for $7 million something and went broke. So I would have gone broke. But I took a lot of chances. And if you think that the government is 100% honest, let me tell you what happens sometimes. I did get a big job in Michigan. It took me 15 airplanes to do this job, and all kinds of ground equipment and ground personnel, and it was a tough contract. And I got it, and we did it well, and they liked our work. So anyway, about 2 months later, I have phone rings, and it's Mr. Turner from the Department of Agriculture. Says, Bob, why didn't you bid the Michigan job? And I said, what Michigan job? He said, we sent telegraphic bids out for this Michigan job, And I said, well, geez, I never got it. And he said, I said, when's the bid opening? And he says, I'm sorry, it was 10 o'clock this morning, and it was about 11 o'clock then. And I said, geez, is there any way I could bid on that? And he says, well, the bids have been opened. I don't think so, but let me see if I can do anything. That afternoon, I get a telegram stating that the bid opening has been extended for 24 hours only because they didn't like me that much, probably, but they figured they didn't like the bid they had. So we bid the job and we got the job. So so the government is not like 100% honest. But it's just dangerous work. We were very fortunate. I never lost a pilot crop dusting.
Now, did you do jobs all over the country?
Oh yeah, we worked Florida, Arizona, Georgia. We had bid contracts like on fire ants, and they were, I can't remember, down around Texas somewhere. Yeah, we did a lot of work around New York, and we went all over.
Yeah. Well, that's certainly very impressive. All right. To look back on the whole thing now, how do you think that your time in the military wound up affecting you? I mean, obviously you got...
How did it affect me?
Yeah.
Number one, I paid dearly for loss of my hearing. I mean, there's no question that happened.
Why did...
My experience in the service was absolutely wonderful. I enjoyed it. I love the Marine Corps. Uh, See, I was pretty lucky.
Yep.
I mean, you're all gung ho. You want to get over there and fight, but you get orders, and
Yep.
that's what you don't have a thing to say about anything. You just get orders and you
Yep.
go. But no, the experience was wonderful.
Okay. Now, why did you lose your hearing? How did that happen?
That happens to most pilots, but mine's getting worse all the time. When you fly, when you take off and fly, like at night, we do a lot of this night formation flying, and I'm flying great big SB-2C Helldiver and holding my position, and that drone is so loud for all those hours that when you get down, you can't even hear. But then, it comes back. And I've been to the VA hospital and all that, and there's no question that's what
Right.
ruined my hearing.
Yeah.
But fortunately, like now, I can get by. We understand each other.
Yeah. Oh, well, you've done very well, and thank you for taking the time to talk to me today.
Oh, hey, I'm happy to do it. I enjoyed going over all those things.
All right. There we go.